Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ravens Call. I'm your host, Tyler Cameron, and here we go. We're about to go into week 2 of the season. Week 2 is fully concluded. If you don't know what this podcast is about or consists of, you can go and watch my 1-minute intro video, or I can explain it a little bit. Every week, I'm going to go over all the NFL news, all the NFL games, as well as prioritize talking more in depth on the Ravens games. This podcast should be available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. So please be sure to subscribe to those. You can find the links to all of those within the channels, or you can go to my Instagram at the Ravens Call Podcast. On that note, hope everyone is having a fantastic day and ready to listen to some exciting NFL and Baltimore Ravens news. All right. So week 2 is fully concluded. A lot of upsets. One I'm not very proud of, but we'll get to that a little later. A lot of big name upsets at the start of the year, which is to be expected. Teams are really trying to solidify themselves and figure out their identity, especially when you have new players or a new system in progress. So tends to happen towards the start of the season, but way more than we expected this year. So with that being said, let's talk about the first game on Thursday night. Was the Buffalo Bills versus the Dolphins. First, before this game started, I really thought that the Dolphins were going to have this one. They're at home. They didn't look the best against the Jaguars, but still they've got a better defense, better offense, but I don't know. With looking at stats, knowing how Josh Allen is against the Dolphins, and you just can't count Josh Allen out, if you know what I'm saying. And that's what happened. So I ended up choosing Buffalo, thankfully, because Buffalo won 31-10. They didn't do it a lot in the passing game. It was more James Cook with 3 touchdowns. The more interesting portion of the news was Tua Tagovailoa leaves with a concussion, which the funny part is it actually was Damar Hamlin who got the lick on him. But granted, it's not his fault at all. It was no one's fault but Tua's. He tried to brute force the defender and hit him head on, and it was not a good idea. So now everyone's debating whether he should retire, whether he should continue to play, because that's 4 concussions in the past 3 NFL seasons, which is very scary. And I don't know what I would do in that situation, because you love the game of football. You want to keep playing. You're still at the highest level. But later on in life it's going to really affect you. So you have to really look at the present and the future of what is to come, and can you live with yourself in the future, and can your family live with you? That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. I don't envy Tua on his decision, but I think he said that he's still going to continue to play, which I was not shocked by. I don't think that he would suddenly retire. Some people can hang it up, call it quits like that, but others can't. So hopefully to a speedy recovery, and he's able to get back on the field and be able to play with no more concussions, so he's able to live a long, healthy life in the end. Now on to Sunday's games. Here's one of many upsets of this week, was the Saints against the Cowboys. And this game wasn't close, ladies and gentlemen. It was done at halftime. I mean, it was pretty done in the first quarter, heading into the second. Rashid Shaheed played really well, but the star of the show was Carr and Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara had 4 touchdowns on the day, which 4 touchdowns on the day by one player is pretty crazy. They won 44-19. It was not a pretty performance from the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb had a long touchdown. That's the only touchdown I think that they had. I think it was all field goals from there. But Alvin Kamara played well. The Saints may be the real deal. They definitely played really well on defense. Their offense was clicking. Hoping to see what happens. I mean, because that division is actually starting to look a lot better than I anticipated at the start of the season. But the Cowboys go 1-1, and they will actually be playing the Baltimore Ravens this next week, which that's going to be a tough game for both teams. Both teams really need a win in that game, so it'll be tough to see. But thank you, Kamara. You helped me with my fantasy this week. Sorry, Michael, if you're listening, but that's what Kamara does. That's why I picked him. So yeah, Saints won 44-19. That was a real big shocker. Another shocker is going to come up here soon. The next game was the Tampa Bay Bucks against the Lions. I had the Lions in this game. I thought the Lions, they played them in the playoffs. They looked pretty good. I thought there's no way the Lions lose. Not doubting Baker. I think Baker's a great quarterback. I'm so happy that he's doing what he's doing for the Tampa Bay Bucks because the Browns kind of did him dirty. And he showed out that day. He played really well despite Aiden Hutchinson having 4.5 sacks on him. They played really well. He looked so much better in the pass. He did great running the ball. So the score was 20-16 Bucks. It was a very close game. Lions had their chances to take the lead. They had a lot of opportunities, but they just couldn't. They just couldn't get past the defense. They made a lot of costly mistakes on that. But kudos to the Bucks. Lions will have a bounce back. I know they will, but it's very shocking to see, and that could be a potential playoff matchup this year. On to the next game is the Colts and the Packers. Now, obviously, you think, well, Jordan Love's out. There's no way the Packers win. Well, they did. The quarterback, Malik Willis, did not really do much. He was more just game managing, which was very good on his part. That's all they needed to do to get this win. The score was 16-10. Josh Jacobs had, I think, 31 rushes for 153 yards, which, that's a lot of running the ball, but it was effective. 32 carries for 151 yards. It was a lot of carries, but it was effective. They ran the ball really well, were able to get a touchdown and kick some field goals, and the Colts just did not do anything. They had a decent run game, but their pass game has been atrocious the past 2 games. I know Richardson's still trying to get back and be able to get back to health, get back to playing the system he wants to play. So it's definitely a tough loss for the Colts, but we'll see what they do from here. Now on to the Jets and the Titans. Now I had thought with the Jets and the Titans that this was not going to be a close game. This was going to be a bounce back game for the Jets. It actually seemed to be a lot closer than we anticipated. But, the Jets held them off. They won 24-17. Had a really good performance from both the running backs, Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, who both scored touchdowns, which was very good. It's showing that the running back game and the run game is really good. Obviously, the pass game will come. Aaron's still kind of getting back to himself. A win's a win. Take him where you can. So Jets game was very good to see Aaron play semi-decent, but it wasn't their best game by far. On to the next upset, which was the Vikings and the 49ers. The Vikings won 23-17. It was a very turnover-heavy game for the 49ers. The 49ers had their shots many times to win this game, but they just kept, screwing up and making costly mistakes that just they couldn't get over that hump. And so the Vikings played a really good defensive game. They were able to get touchdowns here and there. So they end up taking this one, which is another shocker. So Dallas and the 49ers were huge teams as favorites to be in the playoffs, and now they're losing outright, but I can't say the same about another team. Our next game is the Seahawks and the Patriots. This one actually went into overtime. The Patriots are being a sneaky team. They've been playing semi-decent, been able to manage the game really well. Seahawks played not their best, let them hang around a little too much, but they were able to tie the game with a field goal and then able to win it in overtime with another field goal after the Patriots had the ball. So very good on the Seahawks, starting out 2-0. They are ahead of their division right now. So they want to make sure to keep that lead up when they have it on the 49ers. So good on the Seahawks going 2-0 to start the season. Now the Washington Commanders and the Giants. Boy. So the kicker for the Giants got hurt, I believe, the first or second quarter. And so he wasn't able to come back in. And it was crazy because I think they scored a touchdown in the fourth and they couldn't kick it. I think they tried once with their punter and he missed. But there was a lot of weird scores in this game, and the Giants ended up losing. The Commanders won 21-18, and let me tell you guys, that 21 points is not 3 touchdowns. That 21 points is all field goals. All field goals. The Giants dominated the game with their offense, and they lost because they just were atrocious when it came down to 2-point conversions or defensively just letting them hang on. I picked the Commanders. I thought that Jason Daniels was going to do quite well against the Giants, and he did for the most part. It's just, he's still a rookie. You can't expect him to do so great in 2 games and just, he becomes an MVP. It takes time, but this was a very good win. It helped him boost. He was able to get them in scoring position to get these field goals, which was good, reassuring for the Commanders. So the Commanders are 1-1, tied with their division leaders with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Next game was a shocker, and I'm meaning that very sarcastically. The Chargers and the Panthers. Now, obviously, we all knew how this game was going to go. The Panthers are shit. They've actually just announced that Bryce Young is going to be benched and Andy Dalton will be the starting quarterback. I think that's good for right now. Let him rest. Let him get some more reps and learn from Andy Dalton a little bit, because Panthers just have nothing going for them. I mean, you have Thielen, you have Diontae Johnson. Those guys deserve a lot more credit for having to put up with the shit they're dealing with. The Chargers won 26-3. Panthers look like they could do nothing. They don't have the offensive line. They don't have the running back weapons. They don't have anything. It's an organization that, I'd love to go to a Broncos-Panthers game and watch, and hoping that the tickets are cheap, and they're still not, which is kind of surprising because, they should be like $15. Because to watch this team is a mercy. It's, in soccer, they have relegation. This team would have gotten regulated a while ago. They haven't been the same since Cam Newton. But I digress. The Chargers played really well. 2 touchdowns to Quentin Johnson. J.K. Dobbins had another great game. Chargers are 2-0, but I don't give the Chargers too much credit on that 2-0 because, you played the Raiders and you played the Panthers. The Raiders beat the Ravens. Spoiler alert. Which, yeah, that was definitely a sting. But on the Chargers note, 26-3, knows that they can still score. Herbert still got it. Good on them. We'll see what they do next week. On to the next game here, which was the Browns and Jaguars, which scores 18-3. Browns win. The Browns still just look so terrible. But, hey, when you play a worse team than that, being the Jaguars, that's what happens. The Jaguars had every chance to win this game. The Browns just couldn't do anything. And they just looked terrible. Both teams did. And it's shocking because you're expecting both these teams to ball out. They're contenders, not for the Super Bowl, but just contenders to make the playoffs and maybe scare some teams. And it was just like watching Grid Kids football. It just looked bad. Deshaun Watson played terribly, like always. That's not shocking. They definitely need Nick Chubb because without Nick Chubb, there's not much. I feel sorry for the Amari Cooper fans for fantasy because Amari Cooper is not being used at all. And that man he's a top wide receiver when he is put in the right situation. I'm going to skip over the game here, and we're going to go to the afternoon games. The other huge win, which we thought this was going to be a lot closer, was the Cardinals and the Rams. Cardinals won 41-10. Marvin Harrison Jr. had 2 touchdowns. He had 4 receptions, I believe, for 130 yards, which huge bounce back game for him after having 1 reception for 4 yards in his first game. The Cardinals Yeah, they're 1-1, but they looked really good in the past two games offensively. James Conner's balling out. You have a couple different weapons on the Cardinals that could make this team really good. And 41-10 is no easy feat. I know the Rams aren't the best defense, but still, very good win for them. Kyler Murray balled out, had one of his best QBR ratings ever. So almost, it was either perfect or nearly perfect, which is amazing. Next afternoon game was the Steelers and the Broncos. Broncos lost. Steelers won 13-6. Steelers are 2-0, which, as a Raven, I'm not too worried about. I mean, the Broncos, it's tough with the rookie quarterback, especially when the Steelers, they're their defense. That's all they got. I mean, you score 13 points and you expect to win. Score 18 points and score no touchdowns and they expect to win. Other teams actually have to work hard to get wins, work hard to, with their opponents. So once the Steelers have a real opponent, we'll see how well they do. But Bo Nix didn't play the best. But again, you're expecting him to be fantastic in two games. He played two tough defenses, one better than the next. The Steelers are a tough defense. And, to score 6 points at the end, and still have a shot maybe to score a touchdown. As a supportive Bronco fan, I'm not too worried. Bo Nix has to be able to play and get comfortable. And when you start out with two tough defenses, it can be very tough to score any points. So there were a lot of 3-and-outs this game, a lot of punts from both teams. It's more suspicious for the Steelers that they're having 3-and-outs than it is for the Broncos, because the Broncos have a huge learning patch to do, and the Steelers, they really don't. They have a run game. You should be able to be passing the ball, and you didn't. So bad looking performance from the Steelers. Probably the worst 2-0 team that there is out there so far. But I digress. The last afternoon game was the Chiefs and the Bengals. The Chiefs won 26-25 off a winning field goal after the refs called a penalty. Sorry, Bengals fans. It was a penalty, but it's so ironic that it's always a penalty. It's always a penalty that gets them in perfect position to win games. Always. That's the funniest part, is when you play the Chiefs, and especially at home, you're playing the refs too. You're not going to have a fair advantage. The Bengals played really well. They are an 0-2 team, which is very good to see as a Raven, but very shocking to see as well. It'll be a very big bounce back game for the Bengals going up against Washington. And the Ravens, if you have any opportunity to make the playoffs, it's now, because the Bengals will start figuring it out. We need to start figuring it out. Our schedule doesn't get any better. So we got to be better than this. But yeah, the Chiefs won. Very shitty performance by Patrick Mahomes. Isaiah Pacheco played well, but it cost him a huge injury. And so we'll see what the Chiefs are without Isaiah Pacheco next week. Our Sunday night game was the Texans versus the Bears. I thought this game was going to be a blowout. It wasn't. It just seems Houston's offense was struggling a little bit. There was a huge hip drop tackle on Joe Mixon, which as soon as I saw him get tackled, I knew that it was a hip drop tackle. You could clearly see he was feet in the air, dropping all his weight on him. I'm hoping Joe Mixon's okay. But yeah, that should have been fine. There was a couple plays actually where there will be fines being dealt in this game. But the Texans did take care of business, 19-13. Bears had a chance at the end and threw an interception. The Bears are going to get there. Their offensive line did not play that well. The Texans, very lingering on that, because what I mean by that is Texans looked good in the first half, and then the second half they just couldn't do anything, couldn't move the ball. And with all the weapons they have, that's a little disheartening, because I mean, you got Nico Collins, you got Diggs, you got Tank Dell, Mixon, CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud's still balling out, but it could have been a lot cleaner of a game for them. But I digress. The Monday night game. Wow. The Eagles, they played dominant. I mean, they played really well towards the end. Jalen Hurts rushing the ball. They looked fine-tuned. The running game was well done. Passing game was here and there without A.J. Brown. But the Falcons just stayed in there, waiting for their opportunity to strike. And in the 2-minute drill in the fourth quarter, they did. There was a play on 3rd and 3 for the Eagles where they could have iced the game, and Saquon Barkley dropped the ball. It happens, but I know he's probably thinking that he cost them the game. No, there was many opportunities to score, many opportunities to increase the lead that didn't happen in the third quarter. So, but for the Falcons, that 2-minute drill was amazing. They played really well. They attacked the rookie corner and just kind of exploited him a little bit and were able to score. And then Jalen Hurts threw an interception at the end of the game. Falcons won 22-21. Very weird scoring game. But wow, this was a good game. I would definitely call it an upset after how the Falcons played last week and the Eagles, how they played. It looked like the Falcons didn't know what they were doing, but they clicked in the end. That's all that matters, is a win's a win. So that is it for the NFL games. Now we're going to hop into your favorite team, the Baltimore Ravens. All right. So obviously, if you saw the score, the Raiders beat the Ravens 26-23. A very big gut punch because, I ran my mouth. I really did. I thought this game was in the bag. We were by far the better team, even though, we didn't play the best, but stat-wise, if you looked at the stats, we played really well. The Raiders receiving, their two receivers did amazing. Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams played really well. We had everything. We had 5 sacks against them. We had an interception. Granted, we gave up an interception, but I blame that more on Bateman because he didn't catch the ball and it went right into Splain's hands. The offensive line is pure shit. Lamar Jackson is having to run way more because he doesn't have any time in the pocket. So, I don't know. You can blame Lamar for this, whatever you want. Lamar played fairly decent. They just couldn't get anything going. We don't have the receiver help. Mark Andrews finally came back. Isaiah Likely kind of went down. Zay Flowers is having to do everything. We don't have a receiving core. Woohoo. Bateman, you had 3 receptions for 40 yards. You didn't do anything else. You don't beat your defender at all. So there's no winning. We're stuck to the run game because, we have tight ends and 1 receiver. You're not playing well. Nelson Aguilar's not playing well. We are relying so heavily on our running backs and tight ends to fix our problem. We are very predictable because we are so, who the ball is going to probably go to. Because Bateman, you're not beating your matchup. I know this is the second game of the year. But when you get easy matchups like this, you're supposed to win. You need to win, especially with our division. Thankfully, the Bengals are 0-2 and the Browns are 1-1. I'm not too concerned with the Steelers being 2-0. They have been playing like shit and they will always play like shit against all of us. But this year is the year that we're going to have to beat. We're going to have a huge winning record against our division to hopefully survive, because 0-2 start is not where we need to be. We have some very tough matchups going forward. But Lamar Jackson, 21-34, above 60% completion rating. He threw 1 pick, which was Bateman's fault. Had 2 sacks, TD, 247 yards. That's still really good. Derrick Henry didn't start out the best, but towards the end started playing really well. 18 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions, 91 yards, a touchdown. Mark Andrews, 4 receptions, 51 yards. We don't have receiver help. We don't. We need to fix that either by trading to get somebody in here or signing somebody, because Bateman's not it. Bateman, for the first, I know this is the first 2 games, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but the first 2 games, he has not beaten his matchup, and it has cost us because now everyone's so focused on Likely, Andrews, and Flowers. The best teams have other options. Kelsey, Sheed Rice. Worthy's a bigger one. They have a decent wide receiving core. The Bengals at 0-2, if T. Higgins is healthy, they have a dominant receiving core. All these good teams have good receiving cores, and we can't have one. That's our curse. Zay Flowers is a huge bright spot, and if Zay Flowers goes out, we're screwed. We have no receivers. That's why they're so prominent on us running the ball. That's why they can see when Derrick Henry is going to run the ball, because, hey, Derrick's not out for passing, or we don't have to worry about specific players. And that's the tough part. Our defense stood up really well in the first half, and then in the second half, they just shit the bed and gave everything up. Granted, there is one controversial play that I was very pissed on, was the 3rd and long. They threw it to Adams in the end zone. Stevens did not have a PI there. That's what really cost us the game. Granted, we shouldn't have won with all our penalties, which I'll get to in a second, but that was not a penalty. He had his hands off. He put his hand out and tipped the ball. That was it. And that gave them that 1-yard touchdown to Adams that was able to tie up the game. But we had every opportunity to close the game down. And now we have to go and play Dallas. At Dallas. It's very disappointing to see. I know that I put a lot of hope. I had a lot of expectations for the season, and now it's very tough because when you lose to a garbage team in the Raiders, you automatically think the worst. They have Javonte Adams and Brock Bauer. That was it. Their run game was 9 carries, 24 yards. They had 27 yards rushing. They had 30 more passing yards than us, and we had 129, 28 more rushing yards than them. We dominated the scoreboard. And our defense had 5 sacks and a pick. Granted, towards the end, our defense couldn't do anything. Another huge key to our loss was penalties. Let me see. They had 3 penalties for 15 yards. We had 11 penalties for 109. I mean, we played well. Total yards, 383. They had 260. How do you lose this kind of game? It's baffling. But, I spoke too ill of our competition. I thought we were better than that. But obviously we need to downplay our situations from here on out because that's unacceptable. We should not be losing to a team like this. Our defense was exposed many times in the end. We're not the same team anymore, which sucks. I wish we were, but it's going to be very hard for us to come back from this because this was gut-wrenching. We weren't doing well in the second half. We started playing better in the third and the fourth, but you let Gardner Minshew beat you. He played, his completion to attempts was good, but he sacked 5 times. Yeah, he had a lot of yards, but that's because he just kept throwing it to Adams and Bowers over the middle. That was it. But see, look, they had 2 dominant players that worked for them. Andrews didn't do what Bowers did. Zay Flowers could only do so much. But Bateman and Aguilar, wake the hell up. Because you guys are the ones that need to be there. Aguilar, you played really well last season. Bateman, you were still non-existent last year. You've been non-existent since your rookie year. You need to figure it out, because if you don't, I would hope that they would trade you to get a better person in there. Because we need receiver help. Because Lamar Jackson cannot keep running the ball. An offensive line needs to be better. I know they have a great defensive front. So that was tough. You only gave up 2 sacks, but you had a good amount of holding penalties and a good amount of times where he had to rush his throws. I know there's growing pains with the new system for a lot of the rookies and a lot of the offensive line. But you should be getting the wins, the easy ones when you can. And this one should have been a very easy game. The Chargers beat this team. And the Chargers are not a very good team. So I want everyone to kind of rethink what their expectations are. Now we're going to go into week 3. And we're going to talk about the NFL games. So I'll start off with the Ravens. So I'm still on that segment. We're playing the afternoon game against the Cowboys. They have Baltimore favored by 1, which to me is shocking. I don't see Baltimore being favored. I don't think they should be. The Cowboys are a very tough team. And they have Micah Parsons. Our offensive line, has had to deal with Crosby and Wilkins, and they couldn't do that. We're going to have a very tough time. The scary part is going 0-3 is a death sentence. We cannot go 0-3. So we really need to step up and win this game, or else we can kiss playoffs goodbye. So that's it for the Ravens part. Let's talk about week 3 predictions. All right. So Thursday night game, we got the Patriots and the Jets at the Jets. I would think this game would be very easy for the Jets. The Patriots have played really good against some good teams, so I would expect it to be a little more closer than I would have said at the start of the season. But I think the Jets handle this one really well. I think they're going to start clicking a lot more, start using that run game. Garrett Wilson's going to become more of a breakout again to where they should win this game. Browns are playing the Giants at the Browns. Okay, I don't have to talk about that game. The Browns should win that one. Green Bay against the Titans at the Titans. Now, it does all depend on if Jordan Love plays. If Jordan Love plays, I think the Packers win this one. If they don't, we'll have to see, because the Titans' defense played really well against the Jets. They've been playing really well. It's just their offense will win or lose them games, because Will Levis has not been the best with his passing. He makes careless mistakes, but we'll see how that goes. That's a toss-up game for me. The Bears and the Colts at the Colts. This will be a tough game. This is another toss-up. The Colts are favored by 2. I don't know. Bears defense played really well. The Colts defense, they managed, but I don't know. It's going to be a toss-up game. Richardson versus Williams, who's going to become that person that, okay, they're starting to get back into their rhythm. Or for Williams' sake, he's starting to get into a rhythm because he's a rookie. So that'll be a tough one. Texans at the Vikings. I'm going to say that the Texans are going to win this game. Vikings could upset like they did the Niners. Jay Jets played really well, so we'll have to see on that. Eagles and Saints at the Saints. Ooh. This is going to be a tough game. Saints have played really well. They just destroyed the Cowboys. Eagles just lost that nail biter to Atlanta. I don't know. The Eagles looked well in the second half, but their defense is kind of vulnerable. So I'll lean a little more towards the Saints on this one, but you never know. Steelers and Chargers. I thought the Steelers had like the hardest difficult schedule. Why are the first 3 games pancakes? I guess I'm going to go with the Steelers, but I'm hoping the Chargers win. But with my luck, the Steelers are going to continue to be undefeated, which baffles me. And it's at the Steelers, so the Steelers are probably going to win. Denver against Tampa Bay. I'm assuming at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to win this one, but I'm hoping that Bo Nix has a better game, is able to figure out his offense a little better to where they're able to score some points effectively, have some good drives. That's all we care about is his development. And then he will start winning games and stuff. Panthers at Raiders. Yeah. Do I need to say anything else? Seahawks, Dolphins at the Seahawks. Now, it all depends with the Dolphins, who's the quarterback, but I expect the Seahawks to win this game, mainly because, I don't expect the backup quarterback to be any good, and the Seahawk defense is a very good defense. Surprisingly enough, with Mike Macdonald being their head coach and our former defensive coordinator. Ravens at Cowboys. I'm not going to speculate on that game. I don't have any clue who could win that game. I'm really hoping the Ravens, it's a must-win game for us. But I thought last week was a walk in the park, and it wasn't. So we'll have to see how it goes. 49ers at Rams. Yeah, I'm going to go 49ers. Rams, they don't have Cooper Kupp. They don't have Puka Nacua. I think this is a pretty easy game. The Lions at the Cardinals. The Lions should win this game, but how the Cardinals have been playing, it's going to be a very interesting and fun game to watch in the afternoon. So I'll go with the Lions, but don't hang your hat up on that. This could be an upset game. Sunday night game is the Chiefs at the Falcons. Yeah, the Chiefs are going to win. A, they're the better team, but B, it's pretty lopsided. The Chiefs have to play really bad for the refs to not give them the win. So, but we'll see. They don't have Pacheco, so that could be a huge factor in their scheme. But yeah, I expect Kansas City to win this game easily. We have 2 Monday night games. We have the Jaguars at the Bills. I think the Bills will win. Jaguars just do not look like that team anymore. Is a playoff caliber team, even though they had some good signings in the offseason. So that's that. I think Buffalo. I thought Buffalo was not going to be the same team that they are, but they've changed my mind. They looked good. They have a better scheme in place. Josh Allen's being Josh Allen, of course. The run game's there. So just matters on can their defense hold up. The second Monday night game is the Commanders at the Bengals. I clearly expect the Bengals to win this game. The Bengals just barely lost to the Chiefs, and the Commanders barely beat the Giants. So the equivalents are a little lopsided in one person's favor, but you never know. There was a lot of upsets last week. There could be a lot of upsets in week 3, but I fully anticipate the Bengals to win. All right, as the clock winds down on another riveting episode, I want to thank you all for listening. I'm starting to get more of a schedule again, starting to put these out on Tuesday or Wednesdays, hoping that the people can hold me to that. I'm hoping I can hold myself to that as well. I will make sure to post something on my Instagram page to let you know the episode is up. Remember, my podcast will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you prefer. If you have any comments, questions, or want me to talk about any specific teams, more than happy to do it in the next episode of the podcast. Also, all the music and sound is provided by my brother-in-law, Justin. So thank you, Justin, for that. Well, Ravens Nation, thank you for joining me on this episode. Hopefully we can start getting those wins, and hopefully next time I see you, we have something in the win column, but you never know. Until next time, stay fierce, stay loyal, and keep rooting for that purple and black. I will see you next time on The Ravens Call.